In 2022, Paramount Plus released a crisp, clear special edition of Star Trek The Motion Picture, the Director's Edition. Cleaned up, beautiful, looked great. But I have a question for all of you. Yeah, it's crisp, it's clear, it's beautiful. It's almost like you saw it at the theater for the first time. But here's where the issue is. Or at least it's an issue as far as I see it, because right now all that I hear from the fans is, oh, Star Trek The Motion Picture is incredible, it's beautiful. But I can remember a time back when I was growing up that this movie was hated by so many people. Not the director's one that we have right now, but the one that was released in the theater back in 1979. The one that ran out of money and the visuals weren't as good. It's the same story, but the visuals were not as clear as they are right now. I can remember a time when people argued that The Wrath of Khan was the first official Star Trek movie and that motion picture was a blip on the radar, even though the motion picture almost killed any possibilities of any new Star Trek at all. What I find interesting is, over the years, how so many people would compare this movie to 2001: A Space Odyssey, meaning Space Odyssey was better. I, for one, absolutely love the movie, while I know so many just couldn't stand how slow and how much it dragged on. Roger Ebert's review of the December 7th, 1979, Star Trek The Motion Picture was both good, but it was a little brutal at the same time. Roger Ebert's review of the movie was a mixed bag, and this was coming from December 7th of 1979, so he saw it the night it opened. Star Trek The Motion Picture is probably about as good as we could expect. It lacks the dazzling brilliance and originality of 2001. Once again, there it is. They're comparing this movie to 2001: A Space Odyssey. But in its own terms, it's very well made, a piece of work, with an interesting premise. The alien ship turns out to come from a mechanical or computerized civilization, one produced by artificial intelligence, and yet poignantly human, in the sense that it has come all the way to seek out the secrets of its own origins, as we might. He gives it a decent review. And if you were to hunt for the review, Sisko and Ebert's review of the movie, you'd find it very interesting.
And so, how good are the special effects? I thought they were pretty good. The scenes in the futuristic spaceport at the beginning of the movie are obviously phony, but the stuff in outer space ranges from the adequate to, on a few occasions, the mind-boggling. Star Trek is not as visionary as 2001. It's not as scary as Alien. It's not as exuberant as Star Wars. But it is fun at the movies, and I had a good time.
And my mind wasn't boggled once by any of the special effects. I'm sorry, we saw the same effects, but we had wildly different reactions, although, to be fair, you did say at the beginning they weren't so hot. They had a lot of trouble getting the special effects, I think you know this, and they had to change special effects teams. And frankly, all that they got, I think, are just small duplications of some of the stuff in Star Wars, which we've seen so often that we're really, I think, looking for an advance from that.
Now, I know there are people out there who have said over the years that the movie dragged on, it was slow, and adding more footage to the VHS cassette tape that came out, and then eventually the DVDs that came out. And still some people wonder how this movie became so popular after so long. And as Robert even mentioned, that it's been compared to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, for myself personally, I never had a problem with this movie. I grew up on Star Trek. I loved this movie. This model, this Enterprise right here was my all-time favorite. The Enterprise D is great and everything, but this baby right here is just the Enterprise to me. As I said before, there were many people out there who believed that this movie was incredibly slow and that it wasn't until The Wrath of Khan that Star Trek started finding itself. My question to you is, are you one of those people who believe that Star Trek didn't find itself until Wrath of Khan, or were you one who absolutely loved the motion picture? The competition between Decker and Kirk was an excellent part of the story, which helped make it a good story. The battle between the two of them for command of the ship. The special effects were amazing, but after a while, it did drag on. Overall, I actually thought the motion picture was a solid, decent movie, even back in 1979. Despite its imperfections, I prefer the 1979 version versus the 22 version. So are you one of those people who prefer the 22 version, the remastered version, or the 1979 version, even with its imperfections? I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments. Drop your comments below and let me know. And until the next time, my friends, God bless.